All right. Our next guest is Optional CTF. If you don't follow him already, go to twitter.com/optional CTF. He's an awesome hacker. He has personally kicked my butt a bunch of times on Try Hack Me's King of the Hill. If it wasn't John Hammond kicking my butt, it was Optional. Both are monster hackers. Optional is a guest today. He is going to talk to us about his experience, tell us about his background, how he got started, and I'm excited to hear from him. So, let's welcome him to the stream. I'm going to join our chat really quickly with him, and let's welcome him to the stream. How you doing, bud?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, man. Doing great. I know we have never had the pleasure to actually meet face to face, so very nice to meet you.
You too.
I know chat's been excited to have you on here. I know John Hammond's in the chat, excited to talk to you. Or hear you at least talk. I know he can't talk to you really. But more importantly, I'm excited to hear about you, man. Like, you've been around for a while. You just came out of nowhere from my perspective, from what I heard about you, or how I heard about you, was I saw you just streaming out of nowhere on Twitch. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy? Like, I've never, like, when did this happen? And we started playing King of the Hill. We were doing your streams. That's how I kind of heard about you. But I want to know who you are. Where are you? Like, what do you do? How long have you been hacking, and how did you get into it?
Um, well, so it's funny you mentioned the whole Twitch thing because that kind of blew up out of nowhere. Around obviously the start of COVID, everyone went through a lot of crap. So
Oh.
I thought, why not try and give it an opportunity to share some skills, get out there and give it a go. Experience-wise, I've been hacking on and off for about 2 to 3 years,
Wow.
maybe. Through various different channels. Obviously, you start off thinking, how does this work, and go from there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I, at the moment, work as a trainee penetration tester alongside studying
Okay.
a degree in cybersecurity. Mostly got into it thanks to John, of anyone.
Wow.
I know he's in chat at the moment. I think he is one of the bigger reasons why the stream kind of picked up out of nowhere. Because around the time Try Hack Me released their King of the Hill, I had the pleasure of joining him and a bunch. I think Sherlock was in there as well. He's in chat. We all jumped on, did Try Hack Me's first release game of King of the Hill, and went from there.
Very cool. So you just started streaming because of COVID?
Yeah, so I tried it on and off at the start of the year and didn't really get anywhere with it. So as it come close to close to COVID hitting, university started to die down a bit, so I had a lot of free time on my hands.
Can you talk about why you're not streaming? Because that's one of the number one. Everyone's like, "Is optional okay? Is optional okay?" Like, I haven't heard from him. Like, dude, he's fine. Like, I had the same question. He's fine. But can you touch on why you're not streaming anymore? Because a lot of people were asking when they found out you're the guest, like, do you know like why he's not doing this anymore? And I'm like, I can't talk about it, but you can explain to us a little bit.
I think it's probably one of the questions I get the most as well. Still getting DMs from random people asking, "Look, where are you?" Essentially, some of you that watched my streams 7 months ago now, I think was my last stream. Regrettably, basically, me and my girlfriend had to find a new place because our landlord was pretty much, we come to our end of our tenancy. He didn't want to extend our tenancy, so we ended up having a few weeks to find somewhere different. We moved into a really nice flat. However, the internet availability wasn't quite there. So I've learned my lesson on that one.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, man.
But on a good note, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I guess. Tenancy does end in 4 months or so, so hopefully, as we progress through 2021, I should be able to get back to streaming a bit.
2020 was a shitty year, anyways. So 2021 will make up for it.
100%.
So tell me about your background, man. You said you've been hacking for 2 or 3 years. Did you
Yes.
do anything before? What did you do before it? Were you just going to
Uh,
school? Were you playing video games? Like, how did you? What were you doing, and how did you end up with hacking? Is what I want to know.
right. So how I ended up with hacking's a weird one. I always wanted to be a web developer, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
However, I found very quickly on that I wasn't a web developer at heart. It was one of those projects I liked to do, not necessarily wanted to pursue it when I started going to it. Started studying a college course over here, which I think in translating that to age-wise for the US, it's like 16 to 18. So I think the final years of high school.
Okay.
Um, Ended up dropping out of that and just working full time, just random retail jobs. Before going back to college to do computer science and actually knuckle down and get a cybersecurity or get into cybersecurity. I think everyone, as they start progressing and getting a bit more curious about cyber, they always have those people that influence them to take that path. One of the lecturers at college was really heavily into cybersecurity and actually pushed for me to go towards it, which, as someone that was curious about it already and had messed around with Kali on various different occasions,
Yeah.
it just seemed like the right path. And going from there, it just led to progressively getting better. Came across Hack the Box, which I think was, there's like an age-old debate now of which platform do you start on if you want to get into this field. Do you do Try Hack Me? Do you do Hack the Box? Do you do VulnHub even?
Yeah.
Hack the Box was my starting platform, but I probably wouldn't recommend that to as many people now as now that Try Hack Me's rising up. They've got some really good beginner, without sounding like a sales pitch, Try Hack Me. It really speaks for itself how many opportunities are there for people to get started now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, man. Like, they're both good platforms. I love both. Hack the Box has been great. I don't do much on it. I can't stream Hack the Box. It's not easy to do it with Try. It's easier to do it with Try
Yeah.
Hack Me. I wish I could, but they're both great platforms. Not to also sound sales pitchy, I have my own bias because I work with Try Hack Me, but honestly, like,
Yeah.
the learning paths on Try Hack Me is what's helpful. You know, if you want to
Yeah,
learn
100%.
WebSec, they have an entire thing you can click on and it shows you web. If you want to do whatever, in pretty much Disclosed, they have a path for it. OVAS, they all have these different paths. So it's very helpful to have those. I'm curious, if you've been doing this for, I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that you've been doing this for a few years. Like, I don't even know how to approach that yet, but how did you become so good, dude? Like, you're genuinely a good hacker. Like, when we do the Try Hack Me stuff, you're very quick. You were very fast at getting
Uh,
in. I mean, I know John had its times, a few times when we couldn't
yeah.
get back in, but you got very good very quickly. What was it? Persistence, like you were doing every day. You just doing hack the box on your own, learning every day. Was it that? How did you manage?
Um, Sleepless nights, honestly.
Okay.
A lot of people that are in my Discord or know me anyway know that up until recently my sleep schedule has been absolutely horrific.
Right.
So normally like 3-4 hours a night sleep. Um, so it kind of went on a really vicious cycle of wake up, grab the nearest caffeinated drink, log on to Hack the Box, slam your head for a wall for 8 hours, have something to eat, rinse and repeat. And I think I think 6 month cycle, I went from knowing pretty much nil to climbing through Hack the Box and creating some really good friendships along the way. Honestly, like I think one thing you learn very rapidly in when you're starting to learn this stuff is there's a lot of people that want to gatekeep as you progress. So you can speak to people and they say, "Oh, you should know this," and "Why don't you know this?"
Yeah.
Um, but as you progress, you build friendships with people that actually want to learn along the way. Um, that's as important as the skills you learn from individual hacking. Is you may not know something, but you may somewhat know someone that does, and if they don't, maybe they know someone that can actually provide some insight into something.
How'd you reach out to these people? How'd you become friends with these people that you're mentioning?
Um, Discord is. honestly such a great resource. I think if you utilize it properly, to my flaws, I've misused Discord several times in the past. Don't recommend it. It's not worth it. You lose out on a lot of opportunity to network with people. But yeah, normally you'd start going into Discord. So I know I hacked the box Discord about 18 months ago. Go in there. Oh, I'm stuck on this problem. I've tried this, this, and this without being too detailed. And yeah, people would be like, "Oh, I tried this, this, and this. Have you tried this?" And you start looking at different ways of looking at it, and from there you start thinking, okay, this person helped me before, send them a message, see if they can give you any insight. I know a few of the guys from my current hacking team on Hack the Box. I've been hacking alongside one of those guys for probably 2 years almost at this point.
Very cool. What did you mean by misuse? You said you misused Discord.
So when I say misuse Discord, I'm just gonna cut and be like just acting like a complete dick on it.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether you got any PG rules on your stream, and if so,
I don't. You
I
can
apologize.
say whatever the fuck you'd like to say. But...
Yeah. No, every now and then I go through spouts of being an absolute bellend. So
yeah.
It was no different, and I think the most prevalent one, I think, is a question that's been asked and keeps getting asked in Try Hack Me, is why I'm not in there anymore. But to put it bluntly, I fucked up in Try Hack Me Discord, hence why I'm not in there anymore. And it's a mistake that I'm going to have to bear for probably the future to come. So
that's unfortunate.
It is what it is. There are some good guys in Try Hack Me, and because of my own mistakes, it is what it is. All I can do is learn from it.
As long as you're learning from it, man. It seems like you had something happen. I'm not sure what happened. We don't have to talk about it, but shit happens, man. As long as you learn from it, and I'm sure if you reach back out to Try Hack Me in a few months, I'm sure they can figure something out. It's been a while. If it's been a while, man, things change. You know, people change, people learn. Mistakes happen, misunderstandings happen. You know, you just gotta learn to overcome it, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those. It's not necessarily, okay, you screwed up in the past, what are you going to do to amend it in the future? Yeah. If you can move forward with it, it doesn't change it. It's better for everyone then.
Yeah. Tell me about your background a little bit. You said you're a computer science student?
Yes. So my background, if we're going formal background, I didn't perform very well in school. Had my head in League of Legends. I'm pretty sure everyone's been through a spout with a game like that. Didn't get great grades, so ended up going to college round one when I was 16, fresh out of high school, thinking, okay, I'll do computer science. Went in there with the mindset of becoming a software developer. Didn't really have any drive for that, so ended up dropping out, doing odds and sods. Didn't really think too much of IT as a career path at that point.
Yeah.
And then I think the turning point was when I turned 18. I was stacking shelves in a supermarket, thinking, well, can I see myself doing this for the next 20, 30, 40 years? Inevitably, the answer was no. So that led to a computer science course. Achieved really well in that, which, to my surprise, kind of shocked me. I'm not going to lie, having no academic background. Then coming to university to study a cybersecurity degree. And while doing that, obviously doing the extra bits. But I'm not a firm believer in structured academia though.
Yeah.
So university is one of those real daily struggles at the moment of why actually am I here? But the piece of paper speaks for itself once you've got it, I guess.
Did you finish school?
I did, yes. So everything up until now I've completed, even though there's been speed bumps along the way.
Right.
But I think alongside structured school, it's very important to look at opportunities to grow yourself. So whether that's, if you're trying to get into cybersecurity, look at what additional certificates are there for you. I know eLearn Security is a very big name at the moment for additional learning, the same as the dreaded Oscp, as it were.
Yeah, we'll talk about certificates in a little bit, but I want to hear your. You said you don't believe in academia. Same thing, man. I don't think
Yeah.
it's. I can't do it structured ways. Like I have to do it on my own. But I want to hear. Do you think, for somebody who wants to become a pen tester, wants to get into hacking in any way, it could be web, networking, whatever, right? Do you think it's a? Do you need to go to school? What's your take?
Ooh. Ah.
Don't feel bad
So
about saying yes or no. Like I just want to
no,
make it
no,
clear.
no.
This is like I want to
So
hear what you think about this.
this is a question that regardless of what you answer, you're gonna hurt someone in the process. I personally think you really don't. I think in this field, especially, sure, a degree may help you get past the HR filter. But if you are good at what you do, your work will speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
I know you probably get a lot with Bug Bounty. If you've got an impressive portfolio, say you're going through like, I'm going to mention Red Bull because I open up Twitter every day and I'm seeing everyone on their crates and getting a bit jealous of it. But if you've got like a really impressive portfolio of I found this bug, and this bug, I don't think a degree is going to affect your chance of getting a job at all.
Yep.
I personally, up until now, haven't got a degree to my name. And I started a pen testing position 6 weeks ago. So, um, do I think I'll still be in university in a year? Probably not. If full-time position came up, I'd probably look at going into that.
Okay. Why do you think it's not a requirement? How do you recommend people getting started in InfoSec if school isn't a requirement? I know it's
Uh,
repetitive. We already kind of talked about it, but
yeah.
I'm trying to make a point here. Like, what are some ways of learning stuff if I want to learn
So,
about low level hacking?
so if you want to get into hacking, I think the only real, almost roadblock is yourself in this matter. No one's really gonna guide you as you go through. It's all driven by self motivation. Do you want this? Would you prefer to do this, or would you prefer to work in IT, or more specifically cyber? Um, I feel as um, if you're going to get a degree because you want to go into cyber, that's fine. But you would probably realize very rapidly that the course isn't all that you thought it would be.
Okay.
Um, you will learn a lot of stuff. So I know my cybersecurity course is very blue team focused. So we've got a lot of DFA in here. So we've got malware analysis,
Mm-hmm.
honeypots, Windows forensics. So it's very mixed match. But we also have our core modules like entry to ethical hacking, which goes over very basic Linux concepts such as mmap and so your port scanning, your directory, but it doesn't necessarily specify you anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, I think if you can almost audit yourself to open up HackerOne, because I know when I was first starting, HackerOne came up very early on. If you just open that onto the disclosure reports page, I think it's activities. I can't
Yep.
quite remember the name. Um,
Hackerone.com/activity. Yep.
yeah, you can see what everyone's reporting, and this isn't going to be the okay. What type of vulnerability is this? Um, this is real life reports that are coming in that are found. I think you're inevitably going to learn more in a refined. It's almost like the end of a ping. You're going to learn more if you're specifically looking at hacking than if you go to university. And university has the bonus of okay, are you going to do one area of hacking for the rest of your life, or are you maybe going to branch over to malware analysis or
Yeah.
forensic? If the answer is no, I'd probably start swaying towards okay, just focus your attention on learning to hack. Hack for someone in chat I think said it just now. 4 years in hacking um, is probably a lot more beneficial to you than 4 years in university if you're planning on
Yeah.
um, going into hacking and staying in it.
I mean, dude, if you do 40 hours of try hack me a week, holy shit. Could you
Oh
imagine?
yeah, if you do
for a
40
year.
hours of try hack me a week, you're going to be overtaking myself and I probably a lot of other people in a very short space of time.
But to be clear, we're not like if you're going to school and school's working out for you, we're not saying drop out.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'm
no,
the
no,
same as you. Like I can't do I would go to school. I think I talked about this. I learned calculus by going on YouTube and not going to class. I
yeah,
couldn't do it. I don't understand the way that some of these teachers teach. It's not for me. But if it's working out for you, you get the exposure. You get okay. I like this language. I like this part of infosec or hacking or whatever. But you're not going to be able to experiment with those topics. You just get exposed to it versus going in hands on. Try hack me, HackerOne, whatever the hacking that you want to do. You talked about certs a little bit. I think you said you in your
yeah.
bio on Twitter you have your OSCP.
I do, yes.
Tell me, do you
Um,
think you need a certificate for InfoSec? What's your take on it? I know it's a very weird question.
no, this is a difficult one because I've had people message me on Twitter recently and in the last 12 months as well, saying, or since I've achieved OSCP, is do you need OSCP for a job? Plain and simple, no. Um, I don't think you need OSCP for it. It is the age-old battle of do you make it past HR?
Yep, absolutely.
Unfortunately, HR don't check what an individual's skill is. They check what pieces of paper make you look better than the other candidates.
Unfortunately,
Um,
yep.
I think if you don't necessarily have certificates, but you are a great hacker, which I know a lot of people that are incredible hackers that don't have any special piece of paper to their name. If I was in a situation where I didn't have OSCP, I think I would be going to a lot more, obviously not this year because 2020, but conferences.
Yeah.
I think they're one of the least touched on areas for networking. Sure, a lot of conferences are you just find the nearest bar and get smashed while doing a CTF. But there is also an opportunity to network with people, and that may be enough to just get you in with people that are past the HR filter.
Absolutely, dude.
It's definitely valuable. If you are in a position where you do have the money to gain these qualifications and certificates, I really don't see the problem in it. I think it will definitely benefit in the long run. I will emphasize, though, to a lot of people that are watching, especially people in the UK, OSCP will not land you a job solely. So there are qualifications in the UK that are valued as much, if not more, than OSCP.
Can you give me an example?
So in the UK, we have CREST certificates, which
Right.
are essentially you get there's two certificates that you need called CPSA, which is security analyst, I believe it breaks down to.
Okay.
And you got CRT, which is check registered tester. This goes towards getting you a title called check team member, which allows you to, without going too deep into it, from what I gather from it, because the documentation's not great, this is needed to work on certain levels of security over in the UK. They cost a fraction of what OSCP costs, so for the same price as OSCP, you can get the two that get you these qualifications in the UK.
Yeah.
And I feel if you've got those in the UK, it's going to be a lot easier to get started over here and do a lot more research before you shell out €1,000, pounds, dollars. See what's like. Speak to recruiters; they're great as well. I know LinkedIn. I speak to quite a few recruiters trying to land a gig, and they pushed you down the right avenues to go. So.
Do you recommend any other certificates other than OSCP? Because with OSCP, let me know about actually. Let's talk about OSCP itself. Why OSCP?
Yes.
Why did you get OSCP and not other ones first?
So.
And then what would you recommend?
So the recommendation side is going to be a little bit sketchy because I know what my plan for the next year is, so I'll go over
Okay.
those. I think I went for OSCP more out of the stigma of this is OSCP. It's the entry standard for hacking in this industry. if you say, "Oh, I've got OSCP," people are going to go, "Wow, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about." When it's true, it is, but I think because it's got that entry level certificate title, a lot of people would think that it's easy, or a lot of people would think that it's really hard. There's no real in between with it. That swayed my decision a lot. A couple of recruiters also said OSCP will get your name past HR a lot more. I think going forward, though, looking at certificates I'm probably going to go down next, or even do a bit more research around. Very interested in the OSWE course, which is their web app experts training. I think that's going to be a really good, it has some value to it. Looking at the course breakdown, it looks like it's got a lot of web testing, and as my job at the moment is primarily web-facing technologies, it holds a lot of benefits to it. I'm not going to rule out eLearn either, because I know John's in chat, and he really, he's a big advocate for eLearn. They seem to have some really great stuff going on, and honestly, if you don't mind about the recognition that comes with the certificates, eLearn's probably the best way to go, because from what I gather, the courses are a lot more up to date.
Yep.
Without slandering OffSec, I think when I got into the OSCP labs, I was fairly disappointed because a lot of it is really legacy. So like we're talking, without disclosing too much, Windows XP, which I'm not gonna lie, when I got in there from doing like try hack me and hack the box and other methods of preparation, I was a little bit like, hold on, this isn't the type of stuff I was expecting. But
on inline security, before we move on, I agree. Like I don't have any certificates, to be very clear. I have zero to contribute to the topic of certificates, but I've looked at the contents of some of the material, and just talking to Don, the person that's been very involved in all their ethical hacker on Twitter, he seems to really want to make this thing beyond just a piece of paper you get. It wants to be a modern thing that you learn things that are useful in your day-to-day work. And a lot of my viewers, I think, have gone down the path of doing that, because you're absolutely right, man. OSCP for a while, like, it was time for a new freaking update, dude. Like, they've been the same for the past decade. Like, something's got to change. And if you don't change it, other people are going to make new certificates. Like, that's why eLearn Security became so popular, because they were doing the right things. They're teaching everything you need to know. They go down the fundamentals you need to know. For the web hacking one, they did some really, really good low-level fundamentals. And I was just like, holy shit, like, it's a great idea to teach these things early on.
Yeah.
You don't realize when you learn hacking that you pick these up, but they're, teaching you as someone who doesn't know any of this stuff at all.
Yeah, that's really important. I think one of the things that a lot of these companies miss out, especially OffSec, I'm not sure whether eLearn touches on it, is methodology and how you approach different scenarios. So like, you've got a website in front of you. What do you test? How do you test it?
Yeah.
Like, essentially create like a mental checklist in your mind that is going to almost steer the path, so that if you get like halfway through and you're like, oh shit, I've just spent a week testing for different XSS vectors, now what do I do? And you can just look at this methodology and go from there. I think developing a methodology that works for the individual does worlds, and I think certificates miss that quite massively.
Getting complaints about my pen in the background, so if you're hearing my pen going off, sorry. Bad tick on my end.
That's so good.
Tell me about CEH. I got the reaction that I was expecting, but I want to hear.
The age-old CEH. Anyone that's viewed my stream knows that I think it's a pile of dog shit. It's overpriced. It holds very little relevance, and currently my university is trying to get us to sit CEH. So, like, if they're gonna pay for it, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna say no. I think what's the worst that happens? Someone's just put Lamau can't slander CEH. That's only if you've got CEH, though. It speaks words when in the contract for a certificate it says you cannot shit talk this certificate. Like, you know you're in.
Wait,
for a
they
world
say
of pain
that to you?
I'm pretty certain from a friend that did it a while back. They had a picture of the contract that says you cannot shit talk our certificate,
Oh my god.
and then it can be revoked. It's another one of those big certificates. You always get the age-old question of CEH or OSCP. Answered 9 times out of 10, if not every time, is going to be OSCP.
Absolutely.
Unless you're going into military, in which case I hear it checks a lot of boxes in America.
Really?
But from what I've heard, I may be wrong on that. But I from what I've heard from a few people, is it checks boxes. I know in the UK, CEH is just a meme.
Just a meme.
You,
Oh my
you
god.
get it because you don't know what else to get.
Fair enough, man. Let's talk about web hacking. You mentioned you do web hacking for a profession now.
Yeah, so...
How did you get into web hacking?
Right, so through the same avenues that everything else has been, Hack the Box. So Hack the Box, I find, gives you all these different web vulnerabilities that you can mess around with. And it kind of touches on the one point that I wanted to bring up from my transition from playing CTF day in, day out to trying to go into profession.
No.
I think there's right and wrong approaches to it, and that's not necessarily saying my approach has been correct the whole way. But I think there's a lot of people that will go onto these platforms like Hack the Box, like Try Hack Me, that complete a room and then they'll say, right, let's go. I'm ready for industry. I'm going to smack this out of the park. And I'm not saying that's the wrong attitude to have. It's great in the long run. But it's about taking what these platforms, the concepts these platforms teach you. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on with my point of research at the moment is template injection. So
Yeah.
I fell in love with server-side template injection. Anyone on Try Hack Me is going to start seeing rooms flow through from me that are SSTI. It'll probably be some JWT in there as well.
Very cool.
But yeah, I think my experience with it, not to differ from the question, I used Hack the Box to learn. I used HackerOne resources, so the disclosures to see it. Okay, I'm never going to find these vulnerabilities on these websites because there's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to be someone worse than you. And I know from experience from trying to use HackerOne in some of the more saturated programs that it's extremely difficult to find these vulnerabilities. If you go in there thinking you're just going to throw a script tag with an alert one in there, and that's going to fire, it's going to backfire. It's not going to fire at all.
Yeah.
It's about taking the concept you learn, reading the disclosure reports, and thinking, okay, they popped an XSS by using a different type of character set. I've been seeing a lot of stuff recently with some extremely convoluted payloads that pop an alert. Some that use JavaScript logic, so it start using your ORs and AND gates to start popping filters. It's incredible. I think it's a lot of it's going through that. I know anyone that's thinking of going into web testing, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It is, but it isn't.
That's ups and
sure,
downs.
you have, yeah, exactly. So I think one thing that I've learned, especially from watching your streams as well, not to like blow smoke up your ass for terms of a better phrase, is reconnaissance is going to get you a lot further than just going in there and slamming your head into a login page or a random field. I think one thing that a lot of people overlook, especially I know I do, coming from a CTF background, you do enough reconnaissance to get you from point A to B. You don't do full recon that's then going to potentially expose a lot more than what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the approach is what makes you have to find the approach that makes you different from people that you're going against. If you're doing the same thing as the other thousands of hackers looking at the same application, well, you're just all going to end up in the same boat. And that's going nowhere. Like, you're not going to find anything, right? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We're going to talk about bug bounties in a little bit because you brought that up a few times, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on it. But CTF to web hacking. I personally, no, before I say this and people, cancel me on the internet, I don't think the old school CTFs that came out up until 2 years ago did you any favors into getting into web hacking because they were extremely unrealistic. And it was mostly to see who could figure it out, who was smarter, whatever, who would figure it out, right? Nowadays, it's a little bit different. Companies are making real scenarios based on whatever research has been done, bug bounties, DEFCON talks, whatever, right? And they're putting out CTFs that help you learn real things that you can use in real life. And I'm not saying some of these harder challenges aren't real, but in some cases, they're stupid, like unrealistic, like it doesn't make sense. Do you think CTFs for web hacking, the skills that you get from playing them, are they translated into real web hacking or even real pen testing at all?
There's a yes and no to this.
Let's hear it.
So, realistically, and this is going to take one of the more famous rooms on Hack the Box called Jerry. It's an outdated version of Tomcat that you can upload a malicious war file.
It's called Jerry?
Yep, called Jerry.
Okay, I'm going to try this next.
I think it may still have the most solves on the platform for a retired box. So this teaches you, okay, enumerate your system versions. You're going to be able to then upload a malicious war file. It's got default credentials. Boom, you've now got a shell.
Okay.
If we're thinking realistically, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but we say spoilers.
That's why I was laughing.
The room's been retired for God knows how long now. So I won't spoil any active rooms because there are some really good learning points on there. But we'll use the older ones because these come out a few years ago. I'm not saying you're never going to find it, but it is extremely unlikely. And I'm saying you may test thousands of web apps and never find this. You're never going to find that exact circumstance again.
Wait, hold on. The circumstance being what?
Not default credentials. Because you find that.
I was gonna say, dude. I hope you're not saying default credentials. Okay.
No. More heavily outdated server or like
right,
server
of course.
So Apache. Default credentials are one of the most common things. I think we can both agree on that.
Yes, I just want to make sure we get that point across. Okay.
I think to answer the statement in chat saying CTFs are too linear, they are, but if you take what you learn from them and then figure out how to apply that to a real world situation, you actually learn a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to default back to my comfort zone, which is SSTI. My first interaction with it was through a recruitment lab.
Okay.
So at the time, this I'm not sure if they still use it, so I won't go too deep into it. Essentially, it was an SSTI that was in a signature field. So they expect you to gain RCE for it. Every document or piece of documentation online for it was wrong. It required you to think, how does this vulnerability actually work? And how can we manipulate it? So I think the only thing that came in handy, going back to HackerOne, was there was a disclosure for Uber, and it was SSTI in the name of the email field that gets sent through to you. That was what, so realistically, that lab is a CTF. I will always approach every web app like a CTF thinking, okay, this is vulnerable in some way. Especially in pen testing. One thing I've learned, there is always a vulnerability, no matter whether it's a high critical or whether it's just informational. There will always be something. It could be weak SSL, it could be LFI. Do these CTF platforms do a great job at teaching LFI?
Yeah.
Yes. TryHackMe, I think some of the best LFI boxes I've done are on TryHackMe.
Dogcat is a good one.
Dogcat is a great one. Yeah. That room holds a special place in my heart at the moment, and I think it always will do. Mm-hmm. It was one of the first write-ups I ever did for TryHackMe that I threw on my channel. And even today, I get comments like, "Oh, I wouldn't have thought about using base64 to exfiltrate an index page."
Yeah.
And from there, you can progress. And I think that's just how it goes. there's always going to be a discrepancy between CTFs are great, CTFs are bad. Can a CTF be directly correlated to real world in pen testing? Depending on what the box is and how the box has been created, it's very possible. Are most boxes going to look very CTF-y and very linear because you're not testing a million different things? Yeah, they're going to come across as CTF-y in that sense. Because as someone that creates boxes myself, you don't go into it thinking, I'm going to create a web app and have this unintentional vulnerability in there. You go into it with, I want this web app to have SQL injection. I want it to have code execution through template injection, and then I want the privilege escalation. You think of it in 3 stages or 2 stages. What's foothold and what's privesc?
Yeah.
So it's almost a curse of the challenge creator, is you tunnel in on this one vulnerability, than actually creating something that's realistic. And it's finding that balance in between that really changes the dynamic of it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely value in doing CTFs, and that doesn't have to be like conference CTFs. It could be CTFs on TryHack Me, Hack the Box, Hacker 101, whatever else you're into. CTFchallenge.co.uk. If you want to do web stuff, I highly recommend looking into CTFchallenge.co.uk. Adam does a great job of making a lot of different challenges based on what you just mentioned, HackerOne reports. Those kinds of CTFs, especially with CTF Challenge, yes, for bug bounties, dude, like when I was doing some of these, I went, oh, I've done this to a bug bounty program. I've seen this happen to bug bounty programs. But you're right, there's some of them are just, no, you don't see them in the real world. Maybe if you're doing bug bounties and some crazy vuln you find, it may be helpful. I want to hear your thoughts on bug bounties. Do you participate? I know you have tweeted it a few times. I want to do bug bounties. Maybe I can change that later on with you. But I want to hear what your thoughts are on bug bounties. Why not?
I think when I hear bug bounties, I get a real sour taste in my mouth. And this isn't because I fit, and it's more from personal experience than anything. So when I first started out, I did a couple of Hack the Box rooms. I thought, you know what, HackerOne, let's do the CTF. Let's get some private invites.
Yep.
Like, I went through the same channel everyone else does when they start out. They're like, I want to be a bug bounty hunter, because to anyone starting out in cyber, you think, okay, bug bounty hunters are essentially the rock stars of InfoSec, if you think about it. They're like living the dream. They hack when they want, and they live off of it.
Yeah.
So I think I dedicated like 2 months straight, alongside keeping up to date with Hack the Box, because at the time I was trying to maintain a rank in the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And because I didn't find anything, I found like a couple of really minor vulnerabilities that weren't really anything special, that always turned up as dupes. And that kind of pushed me away and put me into a mindset of, why would you risk 100 hours of your time for nothing? And I think it comes down to, and I've said this a number of times on my stream back when I did stream, if you put 100 hours into bug bountying, you only make $100 out of it. You've only made $1 an hour. How much time is your time worth? And this comes down to finding that balance between doing it as a hobby and doing it because you want to live off of it. If you go into it thinking, I want to become a bug bounty hunter because I want a really good source of income, you're probably going to fail. Because I'm not saying money's a bad motivator. It's just you put additional stress on yourself to find these vulnerabilities. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find them because of that.
Yeah. It's a hard balance, man. With bug bounties, you really have to know what you're looking for, or have the, absolutely right, do it for a hobby for now, until you have gone to a point where you're comfortable enough to make money from it regularly. I no longer rely on my bug hunting income anymore, just because because of my job, I don't have the time to do bug hunting as much as I do. Especially now that I stream, a lot of my time goes to streaming. So it's now a hobby. I go in, if I find a few $1,000 worth of bugs, then if I need to buy something, I want to put a down payment on something, then I'll give it a try. But you're right, like I might spend 100 hours a week and make 3,000. The return isn't as much, but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna go to a second job for a week, right? I just want to make some money and have some
No,
fun.
100%.
And bug bounties become into play. But it's a great place to learn, right? Like, I always recommend vulnerability disclosure programs like DoD, GM, IBM. You're not making money from them, but if you want to learn this one vulnerability type, excuse me, if you want to learn recon, how do I automate a giant infrastructure to be enumerated as I get better? Go after these free vulnerability disclosure programs. If you can do it to a company as big as IBM, you sure can do it to a smaller company later on. But they're great to learn. But you're absolutely right. Money wise, like, it's not what it used to be 2 years ago. Back in my day, there weren't a lot of us. There were some of us doing this, and it's changed. But there's definitely money to be made. Just gotta get smarter about it. Any resources specifically to web hacking that you recommend for people that want to get into web hacking? Books, sites, you said HackerOne Hacktivity. What else?
There's not really many, I would say, because a lot of the research I will do will be more refined at this point to, okay, what am I bad at? Well, I'm bad at cross-site request forgery, so what am I going to do? I'm going to look up tutorials on how to do that for them. So overall, I think HackerOne is the main one that I'd recommend. These people are pumping out reports left, right, and center. There's reports being disclosed daily.
Right.
You can keep up to date with how people are finding stuff. Another one is, which is, it's a double-edged sword, because I'm pretty sure people that have been on Twitter for a while will agree that it can be a shit show.
Right.
But at the same time, if you follow the right people that are constantly retweeting information from other bug hunters that you may not necessarily know about, you're going to find some incredible resources. So, like, one thing that I found really useful lately is, I'm trying to think of the Twitter handle, but it's not coming to me. If I ever think I have an XSS vulnerability, but I can't quite get something to proc, whether it's from filtering or whether there's some other really niche behavior going on, there's this one profile that I never can remember the name
File descriptor?
until I start. I think that might be it.
It's a white background with some writing in it. His avatar. Is it a file descriptor? File descriptor? Let's look him up because I want to know who you're talking about.
I think so. I'm gonna say yes, because looking at their Twitter, it looks extremely familiar.
Yep, file descriptor is a monster when it comes down to breaking anything.
Yeah.
Anything client side, man. That guy is.
Yeah.
I did an interview with him. They have Recon List as their YouTube channel, which it's a good. They do great content. But yeah, file descriptor. He's one of the hands down one of the smartest hackers I've met, and he does a lot of good stuff with when it comes down to XSS.
100%. Twitter is all about who you follow and if you're gonna find these people. I think is when you start following the bigger bug hunters, so Use Yourself, Sturk, you guys do a good job at retweeting the community as well. So you start finding other bug hunters. So like I use Tom Nom Nom as an example because everyone knows his love of Bash and all his tools. So you start going down these little caveats that you never consider initially, and then you start finding that it's actually a treasure trove. So I think I might be one of the few that use Twitter as my primary source of research at the moment.
Yeah, no, I did the same exact thing, dude. When I first got into this whole bug bounty thing, I just followed bug hunters that I could find. I would literally go on HackerOne, look at the leaderboard, and see who has a Twitter, and I would follow them.
Yeah.
And back then, everyone was posting stuff. People weren't worried about competition; they just wanted to show off their bugs. So it was really easy to find more content and more write-ups, and it gives you motivation, and it teaches you a lot, right?
100%.
I usually talk about recon. Do you do any recon when it comes down to hacking? What's your recon like?
So from my experience in CTFs, my recon is absolutely trash. You run Mmap, you run GoBuster, you run FUF for your subdirect, your vhosts or anything other, and from there you specify. When it comes to pen testing, more so with web apps, you just get told, okay, this is your target. Yeah. We're not doing infrastructure testing, so no Mmap, no Nessus. So you start really getting down to what like obviously it comes down to the scope of the task, but if it's go nuts, here's your website that you're attacking. Subdomains is always going to be FUF. Directories is FUF as well. I'm slowly starting to transition from GoBuster. It's a really difficult one to transition from. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to what tool you find personal preference, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of my recon comes down to Google Dorking, because it's one of those things. You may not find something through a directory brute force or from a certain word list, but if you get the correct search parameter, you might come up with something. So I think learning Google Dorking very early on as well is one of those big things. It's definitely something I've learned over the last 6 months, and I think it's probably one of the most valuable things in my toolset at the moment.
Speaking of tools, you said you use FUF, GoBuster, Google. What other tools do you use? Burp Suite, and Map. What else?
So Burp Suite is probably my go-to. I never really, when I started out, understood why people were so were screaming Burp Suite's this amazing tool until I started using it. Okay. The ability to be able to intercept a request and repeat it over and over without having to reset the page or meet certain criteria is just incredibly valuable, as well as being able to automate stuff like IDORs, being able to change your cookies left, right, and center. I think one of those tools that I think people don't use very often, but it's one of those very crucial to pen testing specifically, was I never understood the value of Nessus until recently.
Okay.
I always looked at it with the viewpoint of this is just Mmap, but on crack. I very rapidly realized when I got my job that actually it is a full vulnerability suite, so you can identify your vulnerabilities before you even go, and it will start dumping out. Okay, this website has weak SSL, or this has this potential vulnerability. Check this out, and you can really utilize that as a pointer. I'm not saying if you're going to go do a bug bounty,
right,
please don't go and run Nessus on the website. I'm pretty sure you're going to have a very you're just not going to have a very pleasant day with that one.
Yeah.
Because it comes down to how aggressive you can be with your testing. There's 3 different niches, I think I say. Oscp, PWK cover. I need to stop reading chat so much. There's 3 different differentiations, I think. If you're doing CTS, your tool set might be slightly different to if you do bug bounty, or will be rapidly different to bug bounties. And if you do bug bounties, your tool set will probably differ quite a bit from if you're doing pen testing, because you can get away with different things. It's like I wouldn't say run Nessus on a random target would be my main one, and if you're going to start learning it, yeah.
Okay.
My main tool set.
The one thing that I didn't ask you was, do you code?
Anyone that knows me knows I'm a terrible coder. I think I fall into the category of I can code to meet a demand. So if you give me a situation of I need to automate, say I'm messing around with tokens, for example. So JWT is a great example.
Yeah.
This is actually a scenario I've been in recently of you've got this JWT token. It's not secure, so you can actually create and forge your own tokens. Instead of having to constantly go to JWT.io or whatever framework you want to use to generate these tokens, it was a lot easier to make my own Python script to generate this token and then send it off. And then it would obviously pull the return and tell you, okay, this actually works. Or you screwed up somewhere. My programming is dreadful, is the TLDR to this. If I need to automate something, I will. I think that's one of the most valuable things when you start out in this area. You know you're going to have this one, or you know you're going to have to automate stuff somewhere, so I'm not going to say you're going to need to go learn C or anything drastic like that. Learning Python, I'd say, is one of those big baselines, even if you only know how to do basic stuff with it, and go from there.
Do you think it's a requirement for hacking to learn how to code?
Oh god, no, not at all.
Tell me more. Why?
If you understand the concepts or certain programming concepts, it's definitely going to be beneficial. And if you do know how to program or script more specifically, then you're golden. If you know Bash, well, sweet, you've got everything you need to send off curl requests on repeat or however often you want to do. If you know Python, the opportunities are limitless. I think if you know how to program, it's definitely going to help you in the long run, even if it's only to a low degree. If you don't let it deter you. It just take a little bit longer to do stuff manually.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to know how things work, but it's not a requirement. You just have to work harder to understand things. And you have to do a lot of assumptions and black box testing of some sort to understand like how things work in the background. I know we're almost out of time, but I want to ask you a few more questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you have any mentors when you first started? It could be direct, indirect, someone that you looked up to and learned from.
Okay, so I will always stand by this, and it's one of the people I still look up to, and I am very openly a fanboy of, and that's John, or John Hammond to the people that don't know him by John. When I started out, him and Live Overflow were the first channels I came across.
Yeah.
And they proved very influential in understanding concepts. I know John pumps out some incredible content for anyone who is just getting started and is interested in CTFs, and even some more realistic stuff, like he recently did Windows bypasses, which proved actually really useful for a recent test I was on.
Nice.
So I think John, Live Overflow. As I started to progress, you and Sturk slowly blended in with it a little bit later on. So as I grew on Twitch, you guys all started we all started to talk and get to know each other, sort of thing, as with King of the Hill and Try Hack Me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that mental bloom at that point. But yeah, I think that was my main sources, and then a lot of it was self-determination.
I think you are your own best mentor. You push yourself to become who you want to become, right? Yeah.
100%.
How do you manage your time? Are you good at it? Are you bad at it?
It's one of those things. Up until recently, I was dreadful. When I was streaming, my schedule was fairly solid in the sense of I'd start at 5 my time and go for 6 hours. After I stopped streaming, it kind of just deteriorated to the point I didn't really have a sleep schedule. So I'd sleep when I was tired, wake up, and then play video games. So up until recently, my time management just went downhill massively. I think with getting an actual structured job, it very much got me into the routine of, okay, you're doing 9 till 6, Wednesday to Friday, which forced a decent sleep schedule because you need to show up. If you're getting paid to do something, you need to show up. You need to prove, okay, I bring this value to your company. Please pay me, don't sack me. I think it's one of those things that is a skill. It's a very valuable skill, and I think it's one of those I'm still going to be learning for the future to come. But it definitely comes and goes.
Do you deal with burnouts?
How do I deal with burnouts?
Or do you at all? Do you deal with it?
I suffer with burnouts very poorly. In fact, the last burnout I had lasted for about 4 months.
Wow. Okay.
So a little bit longer than the average person, I think. So the reason I stopped streaming, I'll touch on that alongside the whole internet scenario for those that have been here the whole stream. I stopped because of burnout, and I just couldn't get back into any routine. Hacking felt like a chore that I didn't want to do.
No.
It was like, why am I doing this? I don't enjoy it. Why am I doing it? However, recently, my burnouts have been like a week or two at a time. So every couple of months, because I pretty much live and breathe this. You're going to get downturns where burnout strikes. My main methodology now is get out the house, get away from screens. If you go for a walk, go for a drive somewhere, just get away from a screen. If it's okay not to live and breathe this all the time.
Yeah.
I think even if you are going to do something like this and you are planning on pursuing a career in this specifically, you need to find your balance. And I think we discussed it recently, and is finding that balance that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
I find I work 3 days now in InfoSec. I will do research for 1 day a week now. So I tend to use Saturdays as my research. I will have Sundays off,
Nice.
Sundays, Mondays off, where I will spend time with my girlfriend, where I go do something, read a book, or something along those lines. Even if it sounds bad, but my recent book is Hacking the Art of Exploitation.
Okay.
So it's still in the field, but it's enough to get you away from a screen so you're not directly impacted. Or even if you are going to be on a screen, I used my last burnout as a chance to learn or develop my knowledge of programming a bit more. So now I can create Flask web apps, so SSTI
Nice.
challenges. So it's just how you handle things, really. It comes down to time management. It's okay not to be attached to your screen all the time.
So you're saying either take a break from the screen or do something different on the screen, whether it's learning
Yeah.
programming. I mean, the book thing, I like the idea of like, I do the reading thing, but I never thought about feeding that itch. Like, I'm still going to learn some hacking off the screen by reading a book that's related to the thing that I'm taking a bit of a break from. But you're right, I do the same stuff for burnouts. Like, I'll try and learn something new. I'll play a video game. I'll try and buy like a story mode game and try to play it in a few days and beat it, and hopefully by then it's gone. But taking breaks from the screen itself, man. Going on a vacation if you can for a day or two. Like, doing something that's away from... I work in this office for everything. My day job, my video games, my streams, and I fucking cannot stand this room anymore.
Yeah, I'm very rapidly reaching that with this room. Where my job is 100% remote. Work laptop, work monitor, PC monitor, and it gets to a point where you're like, I'm gonna scream if I sit in this room any longer. So you just have to leave.
Yeah.
It gets you, and I think if you are going through burnout, and this is something I've rapidly learned in the last 6 months, because it kind of the burnout started mixing into a little bit of depression, so mental health comes into it massively though. Don't give in to temptations as much. So my vice is gaming to a degree, to sound really cliche. Moderate yourself on that to a degree. So like, don't just wake up, sit on your computer, play a video game all the time, and then try and split your balance up. So like, you'll play a video game for a few hours, then do something different, get out, do something different.
What about imposter syndrome? For people that don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's the feeling of thinking you're an imposter, you don't know anything because you're surrounded by people that know better, or you are, you just you don't know as much as everybody else does because you're comparing yourself. Do you deal with it? How do you deal with it?
I think imposter syndrome is one of those curses that if you don't suffer from it, how? Please teach. They're clearly robots. I suffer with imposter syndrome to a ridiculous amount. My first week of starting my job, I felt like I was going to get sacked within the first few days.
Oof.
Because the first test I was assigned was with someone else. And though I found like a couple of very minor lows informationals, it still felt like it wasn't enough. And I didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
I think that's more so, it depends on the background as well. If you come from CTFs and go into industry, there's always that, do I deserve to be here because of the stigma that surrounds CTFs? And you've really got to push yourself through those moments. It's part of the reason I started, without the shameless plug, why I started writing blog posts on my experience in industry. Because you can document your progress and actually look back and say, okay, week 1, sure, a little bit shit. Week 2, did a lot better, and you start creating almost a vision of yourself in your head that actually I do deserve to be here. I'm not finding these incredible critical vulnerabilities, but I am finding stuff which it's the main thing. It's the same with bug bounties. You may go into it with okay, I'm not finding anything, but what I do find is a duplicate. That happens, but the takeaway is you are finding stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I do suffer massively with imposter syndrome. To go back to the question, today I was having a bit of imposter syndrome, and it's one of those things you've got to learn how to handle. And if you do suffer with it, just find a way of reassuring yourself that it's fine and it's natural to think that, okay, I'm not finding something, it's going to creep in, but no, everyone seems to go through it, so.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I don't deal with imposter syndrome, but I've gotten better at it by reminding myself how much I've worked to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
Because I think about 6 years ago when I didn't know anything at all, and I compare that to today. And the progression is what gets you to understand you may not know everything. It's always going to be a smarter person than you in any room you go to.
Yeah.
And accepting that is what helps.
100%. It's one of those things that I think taking notes, and I know Stefan's channel, CEO Sec,
Mm-hmm.
he, I shared it on Twitter a while ago. He did an amazing video of note taking, and there is a meaning to this. If you take notes of what you're learning as you're learning it, and then sort it, you can almost look back as you have these moments of imposter syndrome and go, I don't deserve to be here, but I know this. So I clearly am, I'm not as bad as I think I am. So it's very easy to be overly critical with yourself, especially in this industry.
I agree, man. I definitely agree. It's just how you overcome it and how you deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And comparing yourself to your previous self is probably the best way to go instead of comparing yourself to other people, because you don't know what other people have been through, why they're to the point of they are. Maybe they have more time, they had more support, whatever that was, right? You can't compare yourself to others, but I would highly recommend comparing yourself to a person you were a year ago, 3 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever that number is. The person that did the video is CEO Sec. I think is COS3C, if I'm not wrong. If you want to drop a link in the chat, you're more than welcome to. Amazing content creator. Definitely reach out to him on Twitter. There you go. Cool, man. I like to. I think we addressed all the questions in the chat. The last thing I want to ask you is, I just want to hear your advice for anyone that's watching this, anybody that watches your stream in the past. They want to know, hey, what advice do you have to give me? I want to get started in InfoSec. I want to get started in hacking more than anything. What is the one advice you have for them?
Main thing is learn how to populate a real question. Don't just go, I'm attempting to do this. Why doesn't it work? Actually think, okay, I've tested this, and formulate your questions properly. Don't be a clown when asking for help as well, or in general in these communities, because everyone deserves a level of mutual respect. Don't go into it thinking, haha, I'm getting into InfoSec, I'm better than you, because an ego's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to hinder you in the long run.
Right.
Main advice would, don't be afraid to use CTF platforms, especially now, as we've touched on in this stream. Platforms have come a long way, especially with CTFs, where we're now starting to formulate our challenge boxes to more, it's not just find a CV and run it type of exploit anymore. We're now taking vulnerability disclosures and actually putting them into our challenges to help educate people a little bit better. It's not going to be easy in the long run, but it does get a hell of a lot easier as you go.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the main advice: is don't be too overly critical on yourself and ask for help when you're struggling. It's definitely it's not an easy battle to get into InfoSec. Don't be deterred by not necessarily flying through everything. If you don't understand something, that's natural. I think everyone it's about admitting where you want to go, where you want to get to, and just do what you can to get there.
Well said, man. Very well done. So I usually end the interview on a fun game. I can't do the first portion of it because it's really bug bounty related heavily, but I do have the second portion.
Okay.
Is what I give you. We're gonna skip the first part. With the second part of it, I give you a word. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them that I've written here for you. Just tell me the first one that comes in your mind. It could be a word. It could be a sentence. Just your thought that comes in. It'll be fun. I'm not gonna put you on the spot with anything bad. I promise. Can't promise that, but let's start off with try hack me.
I'm sorry is the first thing that comes to my mind. I've let down a lot of people.
Okay. Hack the box.
It's definitely a great platform. Just it isn't easy to get into. It's not beginner friendly.
King of the Hill.
Challenging.
John Hammond.
A god amongst men.
Hey, well said. COVID-19.
Fucking shit.
CTF.
Has its potential. Don't develop an ego from it, and always try and stay grounded as you develop through anything, really.
Okay. What about Bug Bounty?
Great source of learning.
Okay.
Just keep open to it.
Server-side request forgery.
Send help.
Server-side template injection.
The best. It's a dream.
Let's do 2 more. CEH.
That's just a meme.
And last but not least, OSCP.
Elitist gatekeeping from a HR perspective.
Well said. Look, man, I'm very impressed with this interview. Thank you so much for coming on the stream. I had a blast. I saw a lot of positive comments coming from the chat. I know everybody watching this enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation. So thank you so much for being a part of this and giving me your Sunday night and spending some time with us and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. It's definitely been great, and hopefully to the people in chat that did witness my streams when I did them, I will hopefully return to you guys. I didn't forget about you guys.
I hope so too, man. I hope you come back. Any way I can help you and support, I'll be more than happy to. Chat, give it up for Optional. If you don't follow him already on Twitter, go to twitter.com/optionalctf. Give him a follow, and I'm going to drop this in the chat as well. Thank you, man. I appreciate you so much. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks very much, buddy.
And we'll talk soon.
You too, man. Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a guy. That was very interesting. He had some he had some great answers, man. He had a lot of good knowledge to share, lots of cool ideas. He's an awesome dude. I'm so glad that we got to talk to him a little bit. But it's enough for me. I don't know if you guys could hear my stomach growl, but I am starving. So I'm going to go get some food. I'll be back online tomorrow. I'm going to work on the bug hunting resources that we have on GitHub. I need to make sure it's updated. And if you want to come hang out with me, back online tomorrow, same time as today. But we're going to do something different. But before I do head out, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't follow me on social media, do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at NahamSec. Same thing as my address here, or my handle here. We're going to go raid someone. I'm going to look to see if there's anybody doing some ethical hacking. We can show them some love. Do me a favor. When we do end up in this channel, which I don't see anybody really ethically doing anything hacking related, but we're going to just raid someone. Oh, okay. We'll raid the same person as yesterday. When we go in there, show them some love, hang around, let them know you are coming from the Nahamsig raid. I won't be around for the day, but you guys could enjoy. They're doing a very similar thing as I was doing earlier on Try Hack Me. Enjoy the raid. I appreciate you guys. I'll be back online tomorrow. And thank you so much for all the new subs, all the new followers. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for following this channel. It would not be possible without you guys supporting me. So thank you so much. I'll see you guys all on Discord. I'll be back online tomorrow. Until tomorrow, I'm out. Peace.